Walking through the pain of a broken heart? Then tune in to Mystic Radio with Rob and Alexis. If you are a widow, navigating loss, or curious about mediumship, join them. Experience live on-air connections between clairvoyant medium Rob and Alexis and her deceased husband, Bob, alongside somatic practitioner and healing guide, Mary Stevenson. Download the KKNW app Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific or find them on your favorite podcast platform. And let this show help you heal.
Welcome to Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis.
And I'm Bob Bordenero, Robin's husband and producer of Mystic Radio, which is an experience, not an explanation.
Clearing energy for the show.
Welcome back to Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis. I am Robin Alexis. I am your spirit lady. And you just heard the beautiful voice of my husband, Bob Bordenero, who, when he was alive, he ran the most professional radio show. He knew how to produce it. He knew how to work with me. We did it for over 19 years together. And now that he's deceased, he's still a radio man. He has come to me and asked if he could continue to speak from the place that he is. And since I'm a clairvoyant medium, we're going to make that happen. And because I am a grieving widow, we have invited co-host Mary Stevenson to be with me so that we can share my personal experience, Bob's personal experience as a deceased husband, me still living here in physical form. What is it like, and how can we, through our experience, make your experience easier, whether you're already a widow or a widower, or you've had a long-term relationship and you've lost someone, or you're thinking about down the road, maybe, you've been married 45 years and you're thinking about, gee, which one of us is going to go first and how's it going to be? This show is going to help you immensely. And so let's bring in our co-host, Mary Stevenson, and she'll explain how she works and how she's going to work with me. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you. Hello to the listeners. It is such an honor to hold this sacred space with you, Robin, and to be here with the listeners. In time, people will get to know us a little bit more deeply. I would call myself a somatic practitioner and a healing guide. But one other title I want to just say is that I'm also very, very human, and I've gone through my own complex PTSD. I've gone through my own trauma healing over many years. And that's important because it means that I have an intricate understanding of how the neurobiological system operates within a human being. And, it doesn't necessarily go away when you've healed everything. It's that you've integrated things and you become more human. And it's very, very humbling. So losing a spouse, as we all know, it's a journey. It's a big journey. It's emotional. It's a massive neurobiological shock. The body actually treats the loss as a threat because it causes the nervous system to swing between different states. You may feel anxiety one moment and exhaustion another. And so I'm here as a dear friend of Robin's, but also a practitioner to help stabilize Robin in her body and help her process this transition carefully with time, grief and transitions in the body. We're not rushing anything. We have plenty of time to do this. And, that's important to name because the nervous system, when we are agitated or we're activated, there is this sort of, we've got to do this, right? But really, we want to help Robin, you find your way back to your true embodied strength. And I might add, for maybe the first time in your life. So thank you for trusting me and for letting me be on this journey with you, because it's already beautiful. So,
well, yes, I have been quite impressed with how the show is getting its bearings. And Bob has each show come up with some sort of a theme, and today he suggested the theme is every end is a new beginning. And we will see how that fits in the flow of the conversation we're going to have. But what I wanted to bring up, Mary, is that in some shows we're going to be having guests, and that's going to be really, really fun. But this show, we're not going to have a guest. We're going to be working more deeply with what we started with my healing process on the last show. And I wanted you to know that in the last week, I have become far more aware of my own muscles in my abdomen. We were talking about where was I holding the trauma last week on the show, and I said about 3 inches below my navel. And in the past week, I've noticed that it's like my muscles got tighter there. I'm like, wow, I've got abdominal muscles. I'm not just bloated
Right.
in that area. And it was so shocking, and I feel like I'm standing up taller.
Mm.
And I have also noticed that the intensity of feeling grief, of missing Bob, of feeling anxious, of feeling like I'm a failure, I'm doing things wrong, has gotten more intense. So the more that I'm caring for myself, here's another example of what's happened in the past week. I since before Bob was even in the hospital, I started not flossing my teeth. And I'm a, neurotic flosser of my teeth. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so off. I'm not even flossing my teeth." Well, since you did the work with me last week, I'm flossing my teeth. And I'm taking better care of my teeth and my gums and all that sort of thing. But as I'm starting to take better care of myself and I'm aware of myself, I'm eating better, I feel worse because I'm feeling more grief and anxiety. And I'm like, what the heck is this, Mary?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring you and bring myself and the listeners right now, if you're in a safe place to do so. I'm just going to drop us into the body, Robin.
Okay.
And I will do some describing of things, but I want us to get into the physical body. So just feeling yourself seated on your chair and feeling your feet on the ground. We're witnessing the experience of just the sensation, the experience of being in the body and feeling yourself seated there. And we're going to use the breath again. So we're going to breathe in through the nose. We'll do 7 counts. And slowly exhaling now through your mouth for 6. And I do want to bring in some supportive energies. And this is everybody, we're using our imagination, yes, but we're bringing in some white iridescent light, whatever that looks like to you. And we're going to use the breath with your eyes closed, and we're going to breathe it in and have that come through the crown chakra. This white iridescent healing energy. And I want you to feel that flooding your system, every cell of your body. This white energy, and I'm using my hands that you can't see, but just bringing that down, breathing in through the nose. And exhale slowly through the mouth. We're waking up the nervous system. We're flagging the nervous system. We want it to feel safe. It's a new feeling to feel safe in your nervous system without that PTSD energy that would run between you and Bob. So this new experience of actually having the nervous system be quiet, feeling somewhat safe, has the opposite effect. In other words, it does bring in more concern to the nervous system because it's not normal for it. So it's sort of like you're used to running on maybe more adrenaline and this sort of back and forth with the attachment with Bob, right? So now that that attachment has changed form, there is an intensity that comes. There's could be intense longing or panic. And that is a normal reflex of the nervous system. We call it the elastic band effect.
Ah, well, I will tell you just this process, I feel very much in my body. I feel much more calm. And I'm also starting to have a clairvoyant image of my friend Kim, who we've talked a couple times, might come on the show, but she's here in spirit because she's in my third eye. And Kim I've known her for over 40 years, and she lives in Washington State now, and I live in California. And she, knew this whole experience that, Bob had been diagnosed with a heart attack in August of 2025, and he wasn't able to actually get the heart surgery until February of 23rd of 2026. And at the time that Bob was scheduled for his surgery, we were told, he had a 4 to 5% risk factor of having anything go wrong because he was a strong, robust, 77-year-old who, quite frankly, didn't even know he had a heart attack. The only reason why we found out is he was going to have carpal tunnel surgery. So he had gone in to have an EKG, and the EKG flagged him as having had a heart attack. So we had to go through this whole process of even having a Northern California cardiologist available, because there's not a lot here, to perform the surgery. And then he had to go through a bunch of different things to be prepared because he had some difficulties. But anyway, my friend Kim was like knowing all about this, and she knew that I was going to the place where Bob had the surgery, which is about an hour and a half or so away from us. I was staying in a hotel down there because I don't drive. I am disabled physically, and so to be able to be near Bob, I stayed in a hotel, and I was eating at the hotel, and I was taking Ubers and taxis back and forth to be with Bob. And Bob came through the surgery very well, we thought, until the Saturday. We were given some kind of startling information, and then Sunday, they were telling him he had to go home. And I'm not going to go into the whole detail of all that. I want to just go into, I was distraught, like totally distraught. We both felt, Bob and I both felt that they were basically kicking him out of the hospital and he wasn't ready. We did have some information at some sort of, I'll divulge it when it's appropriate. But basically, we fought, and Bob was able to go to a rehab center where we thought he would be safe, safely monitored. And somehow he got into a situation where he fell at the rehab. And at the rehab, he had 3 resuscitations, meaning he died 3 separate times. They brought him back 3 separate times. Then the ambulance came. He was resuscitated again in the ambulance on the way to the emergency room. And if you're resuscitated, my understanding is that if you're resuscitated in an ambulance in California, they put a respirator in. So by the time I got to the emergency room, he had already technically died 4 times. He had a respirator in. And because of what Bob and I were told prior to him leaving the hospital, I suspected he was going to need a second heart surgery. And within minutes, I was surrounded by this doctor who I'd already met, who was like 3 inches from my face, with all these nurses with paperwork right in front of my face saying he needs the surgery. And I was like, he'd signed the do resuscitate form. And I was like, yes, it wasn't a shock to me that he needed the second surgery. In my mind, he should have had it before he even left the hospital. So he came through the second surgery. He still had the respirator in, but he was conscious. He was communicating. He could shake his head yes or no. I was with him 99% of the time, staying in the ICUs with him, doing whatever I could, giving him Reiki, giving him healing, whatever I could. I was just doing it. But then what happened is I got sick. I guess I don't need to fully describe what I got sick with, but I will say that what I got sick with, Bob got sick with. So I don't know who gave it to who, but at that point I couldn't go to the ICU to see him. So we prior to Bob going in the hospital, we had hired a private caretaker who was a registered nurse. And so I called him and I asked him to come get me to bring me home so that I could heal at home and then go back and be with Bob. And when I came home, my friend Kim, who was living in Washington, she intuitively knew she had to drive down. So her boss at work was like, what's this was at this point, this is March 13th, Friday, March 13th. And Kim's boss is like, what is going on with you? And so she told her boss what was going on. She was really worried about her friend Robin in California and everything that had gone on. And her boss said, just go, just, go pack and go to her. So Kim drove the 9 hours
Mm.
and came to me in my home in Mount Shasta. And she took one look at me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you look awful." And she called her mom on FaceTime, and Sharon goes, "Oh my goodness, you look awful." And they felt terrible that they blurted that out, but I did look really bad. So anyway, the point is, Kim.
Mm.
Kim showed up, and
I'm gonna pause you there, Robin, because we have to take a break. But
oh,
when we come back, we are gonna dive much deeper into the extraordinary moments of Kim showing up and then all the things that you had to endure. So we will be right back on Mystic Radio.
When life leaves you feeling untethered, how do you reclaim your center and step back into your full power? Mary Stevenson is a somatic practitioner and healing guide who helps individuals rebuild from the inside out. Reclaim your personal authority and save $100 on your first session using the code MYSTIC at marystevenson.com/coaching. That's Stevenson, spelled STEPHENSON.com/coaching. Your path forward is waiting.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to NewProSupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, August 2nd, it's Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Meow Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, Beth and Merritt Clifton from animals24-7.org. Plus, we'll find out about all the great classes and events coming up at the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Welcome back to Mystic Radio. Robin, before the break, you were reflecting on all of the traumatic moments with Bob's health in the hospital and in the rehab center, and then Kim coming back to us. So let's hear more on that occurrence when Kim joined you.
well, and these are just snapshot moments. I mean, there's so many moments that were traumatic, but the fact that Kim just showed up, Kim has a knack of doing this, not only with me as her friend, but she's done it with family members and other friends. She just shows up. Sometimes she doesn't even know what's going on. She just shows up. She'll knock on her friend's door. She hasn't seen her friend for 3 years, and the friend's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're here. My mother just died." So Kim is one of those types of people who gets summoned by spirit and just shows up. So before I even knew Kim was coming, earlier in the day, I got a phone call from Bob's cardiologist, and he said, I'm going to hold the phone up to Bob's ear, and I want you to tell him that you love him and tell him what you're doing." So I was like, well, that's odd, but I got on the phone with Bob and I said, "Oh, hi, honey, I love you, and I'm home because I got sick and I couldn't come to the hospital." And then all of a sudden, the cardiologist is screaming at Bob and saying, "Don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself." Bob was trying to rip the respirator out because he wanted to talk to me. And the doctor said to me, screaming on the phone, "If I can get the respirator out, I'm going to call you so you can talk to him." Click. So that was 1:30 in the afternoon. Now it's 4:30 in the afternoon. Kim is here. She's exhausted from driving. We don't think we're going to go anywhere. But about an hour passes and Kim's like, "Robin, I have to drive you up the mountain." And so we get in the car. She drives me up as far as we can go. And on March 13th, it was to Bunny Flats. And so we park the car at Bunny Flats and we get out and, we're walking up the snow. And all of a sudden, Bob's spirit comes to me and he says, "Robin, I want you to know I'm going to die. and my spirit's going to leave and it's going to walk into the mountain. And I watched Bob's spirit come out of his body, and I watched it walk across Panther Meadows, and I watched it go into the mountain, and then I watched it go up into a higher place in the mountain, which is Panther Meadows, and that's called the Twin Flame Meadow. That's where my parents are in spirit. And so, I'm kind of stunned. I'm like, okay, is this really happening? I know when I'm really emotional, maybe I'm not getting, exact messages correctly, but I'm telling Kim about it, and then she's like, "Well, we need to get back down the mountain. I'm tired, and we got to get something to eat. We got to get to bed because tomorrow we're going to drive down to Reading so you can see Bob." So we come home, we get something to eat. We're crawling into bed. It's 10:30 at night. Just putting my head on the pillow, and the phone rings, and it's the hospital. And the nurse says, "Oh, we forgot to call you. We got the respirator out of your husband at 2:30 this afternoon, and he's asking for you. He wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "What? He's had the respirator out all these hours and you didn't tell me? I would have been down there." And he said, "Well, you've got to come down now." And I'm like, "Okay." So I called another friend, Elizabeth, who has been very kind to me too. And she came and got me and she drove me to the hospital. I got there about midnight and I walked into Bob's hospital room and he said, "I want to die and they're not listening to me. And you have to make them listen to me." And this is a whole long story. It's going to take many, many shows to fully explain everything. But from Bob's hospital bed, you could see Mount Shasta. We live in Mount Shasta. I had just spoken with Bob's spirit, who said it went into Mount Shasta, and Bob could barely speak. He'd had a respirator in him for like 11 days. They finally get it out. He's really hoarse and he's trying to talk, and he's barely alive, right? And he's like, "They're not listening to me." And I do have a recording that we will play at some point of Bob's voice trying to say what he had to say in order to disengage the form he signed that he did want to be resuscitated. But before we get into all that, that's going to have to be another show because it's going to take a long time. I want to go back, Mary, to how I felt that my girlfriend shows up, she drives me up the mountain, and I, as a clairvoyant medium, but also this woman who doesn't want to lose her husband, is hearing him say, "I'm dying and my spirit's going into the mountain. I'm going to go be with your parents in the Twin Flame Meadow, and I'm going to meet you there when you come." And so, Mary, I mean, I don't even know what to do. Do we talk about the book? I mean,
Well,
please help me.
right now, we just told you for a moment here, and we
Okay.
acknowledge that you just put all of this complicated, beautiful, dynamic information onto our table, and we are holding that with you. And I want to take a breath in for you. And I want us to bring our attention into the physical body, into the heart. We feel the heart is very, very, very inflamed here in a good way. My heart is big, and the listeners are holding space for you because this is a very raw experience. And to share that with us, we are so appreciative, number one, and we want you to feel that. I want you to breathe that in, that you are not alone in this experience, and that we can feel Bob here as well. And I will want to say that for the listeners, there is a book that Robin's parents helped us channel and that I wrote, and I actually spoke the words to, and it's on Audible, and you can get a copy on Amazon. But it's called The Legacy of the Twin Flame Meadow, and this is the meadow that Bob is had stepped into. And this is a place where people go to choose agape love, which is unconditional love. And those souls who surrender to the fires of transformation and are wanting to rise through their devotion to their own becoming. And this is this idea of two souls who walk this walk of being in human form together, but forging that experience through the unconditional Christ consciousness and unconditional agape love. So, what a beautiful offering to you, Robin, of healing in while you're still embodied, while you're in this incarnation. That Bob is giving you this, that we set the stage for this a year ago by creating this book with your parents and my own experience being a twin flame in this journey of my lifetime. So, what a gorgeous space for all of us to invite the listeners into as well. And so, how are you feeling in your body?
Well, I just want to share with people that people from all over the world, millions of people come to Mount Shasta because they're called to the mountain. And I actually want to reflect on how Bob got called to the mountain. He woke up in August of 2010. It was a Wednesday morning when we always did a live radio show, and he was very succinct about we have to always do live. We can't do a recording. But he had had a dream with his spirit guide Al Moria. And Al Moria had stood at the foot of the bed in our home in Port Angeles and said, "You must rise and go to Mount Shasta." And Bob canceled the radio show. He got in his little red convertible Miata, and with Al Moria in the passenger seat, he drove all day long and got to Mount Shasta. And he stayed here for a week. He explored the area and he knew that he had been summoned here. And many, many people get summoned to Mount Shasta. And so if you're a listener and you've been here or you've thought about coming here, you may get the summons to come here because this is a place where you will learn about agape love. You will learn about discernment. You will learn about agape love. It's very, very for the soul. And so it isn't shocking to me that Bob would let me know that not only when he was in physical form did he love this mountain, but then upon his dropping of his body, he wanted to return to the mountain. But it shocked me that he wanted to go be near my parents because my parents are very Christian people. They believe in Jesus and they walk with Jesus. And Bob was more, he thought Jesus was an alien. He was more comfortable with Buddhism or Judaism, other practices of the path of finding agape love. But here he is. He's like, nope, I'm going to go hang out with Madeline and Adama. I mean, Adam and the Lemurians on the mountain. And it sort of shocked me, to be honest with you. And I never considered Bob my twin flame. So, we can be twin flame friends, but I never considered him like a twin flame lover or like our marriage was different. It was a soul contract, if you will. It wasn't twin flamey. Maybe he's twin flamey with someone else. But anyway, here we are. And I'm a wreck. I look like crap. I haven't been eating. I'm exhausted. My friend shows up. All of a sudden, Bob's telling me he's dying and he's going to go be with my parents in the Twin Flame Meadow. And really, I like the YouTube version of it the best. You can Google search the legacy of the Twin Flame Meadow on YouTube, and it will pop up, and you will see pictures of so many things that you've got to see to really understand how the legacy was supposedly about my parents and the legacy of Twin Flames and the legacy of Panther Meadows and the legacy of Mount Shasta. And now I'm finding out it's the legacy of my husband.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my goodness. But it's truly about forgiveness. It's about each individual doing their own work because you can't be sovereign and come together in intimacy unless you've done your own inner work. So where I am right now, Mary, is I see myself, I see you, both of us. Actually, I'm seeing a lot of people listening to the show. It's like all of a sudden our higher selves are standing in the Twin Flame Meadow, and we're each standing on a rock that has our name on it energetically. And I can see Bob. And I can see Bob going waving at me, and he's like, "Robin, My voice is to teach people that they are worthy of forgiveness, of forgiving themselves, of remembering that if they're feeling guilty, then that they're not trusting God, that we came here to be human. It's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn. And he's like, Robin, I learned. I learned that I deserve to be one who stood in the Twin Flame Meadow. I deserve love. I deserve respect. And I'm calling others to come stand in the meadow, the Twin Flame Meadow here on Mount Shasta. And so Bob is very strong right now in spirit, leading this Mystic Radio show, being a surrogate, inviting us home, inviting us back to our hearts, being embodied in our bodies, remembering we are souls and that every end is a new beginning. And this is how he consciously chose his consciousness. And he let me know before the hospital called me, before I arrived at the hospital. He told me on the mountain at Bunny Flats he was going to die, and he knew where he was going.
Robin, thank you so much for the courage and opening your heart and this beautiful story today. And knowing that this healing is on behalf of, we are surrogate, but on behalf of everyone listening and on behalf of humanity as we all step into a new beginning. And so with that, we need to say goodbye for today's session, but we can't wait to come back next week. And we're so glad you're all here, and we will be back with Mystic Radio in the weeks that follow. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. And a reminder to our listeners, if you like this show, please, make a comment on the podcast and on the KKNW app. So wherever you get your podcasts, like and subscribe and tell your friends, and let's all heal. And Bob, thank you so much for showing up and being the leader who you can be as a soul now. This has been Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis and co-host Mary Stevenson, and in spirit, Bob Bordenaro. Namaste.
You've been listening to Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis. Are you a widow or grieving a deep loss? Are you curious about mediumship? Then this show is for you. Join clairvoyant medium Robin Alexis as she speaks live on the air with her deceased husband, Bob, while being supported by somatic practitioner and healing guide, Mary Stevenson. Download the KKNW app Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific, or listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If you are suffering from a broken heart, let this show help you heal yourself.